Hi, I'm Crypto Cred, and this is Rekt.
Hello and welcome to Rekt Podcast. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host, Crypto Chamber. Chamber, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good, man. We have a pretty serious guest today, so I had to get a serious drink. So I pulled out a orange Kool-Aid jammer.
You're so sophisticated.
It's going down pretty smooth.
So you're drinking the Kool-Aid, as one would say.
You know what? A lot of people have a negative connotation when they say that. Should be a positive because it is nice to drink.
Hey, the Kool-Aid is delightful.
Yeah. Thank you, crazy people.
Yeah. Anyway, we got an awesome show for you guys today. We are very happy to have the one and only Crypto Cred with us today. Cred, how you doing, man?
Good. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Wonderful. We are obviously recording this on Eastern Time in the U.S. Cred, you are in the U.K., correct?
Yes.
And so it is midnight for you, so thank you for staying up after dark with us.
No,
we appreciate it. But yeah, so let's get right into it. So, I'm sure you've heard this question a million times, but we like to give people an idea of, you're I would say probably one of the most acclaimed traders in crypto, just from all your videos and all your free content that you put out. How did that start? How did you get into crypto? Were you a trader before? Where did it all start?
So I've always loved Ponzi schemes, right? So
Go on.
We're listening.
Ponzi schemes and echo bubbles, you gotta love it. Look, my sort of inception story is kind of boring. I think a lot of us have quite boring stories, and it just turns into something that none of us expected, so to speak. The kind of how you got into it is disproportionate, I tend to find, to the effect it's had in your life for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, lol, drug, weed money, and then they're like full-time crypto, that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's like how they start off usually has like no bearing on how serious it is for them later.
Yeah, I had this horrible crack addiction, and
yeah.
now I'm a CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
That's literally what it sounds like half the time, man. No, in my case, it was kind of boring. I got paid to do some translation work for this CSGO skins gambling website. Thing is, I always get asked this question, like, how'd you get into it? And I feel like every single time I say a different year by like 1 or 2 years. So someone probably thinks I'm fucking lying out my ass, right? But it was like 2015, 16, one of those, right? So 2015, 2016, I get asked to do some translation work for this gambling website. I do it, and then the guy's like, I gave my PayPal link, and he said, oh, well, I'll pay you in Bitcoin. And I was like, well, what the fuck's that? And he said,
no
link me
thanks.
some, yeah, exactly. But I was like, whatever, wasn't much money anyway, so I gave, he showed me how to set up Coinbase, wallet, and all that fun stuff. And then I kind of just left it at that, I was like, I was at university at the time, so I was like, whatever, this, that's how I got paid. I'm not going to think about this, it's not going to make or break my life. And then, closer to 2017, I'd say the first quarter of 2017, when things started getting, things started heating up, Bitcoin and crypto was getting more kind of attention and I guess slightly more mainstream tech news and just kind of, I guess, the internet generally, as things started to heat up a bit. And I was like, oh, I've got some of that, somewhere for that work I did back in the day. And it kind of just went from there. I joined, Reddit at first, and I was like, oh, God, I want nothing to fucking do with this, because,
that happened to me too, Reddit.
Yeah.
And I haven't used crypto Reddit ever since.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. That place is dangerous. So Reddit was terrible, and I went on Twitter instead, on my real life account, actually, followed a bunch of these big influencers, on my personal Twitter account and sent them stupid DMs and stuff. There are a couple of funny stories. Like I DM Bitcoin Dad. I'm sure a couple of you must know him.
He was on the show. We had him on a little while ago.
Yeah. So I DM Bitcoin Dad being like, hey, can you help me? And he's like, oh yeah, what's up? And I'd bought a bunch of fucking altcoins, like 20 or so altcoins, and I tried to send them all to my Coinbase Bitcoin wallet address or something. And I was like, why isn't this working? I could send Bitcoin and Ethereum, but my fucking Digibyte I can't put on Coinbase, that type of shit. So he helped me out. He was a good sport about it. But yeah, long story short, get paid for some work, leave it, things get interesting, and then jump into the place we call home, which is Twitter.
So how did you go from DMing Bitcoin Dad to the huge following, and when did you get to the point where you're like, I can do this, and I'm gonna trade this, and that's how I'm gonna make my living?
Yeah, man. A lot of luck, right place, right time certainly has a part to play. I think people like to understate the effect of that and just talk about as long as you're on the content grind and hard work and all this bullshit.
Right.
But context always matters. So when I was doing the stuff that I did and still do, there really wasn't much going on in the sense of technical trading, taking it seriously, the educational side of things, and it was all a bit lean, I suppose would be the nicest adjective I can think of. There were a couple guys like Crypto Orca was still posting some amazing stuff. Thistle was posting stuff, but compared to what it is now, the kind of sophistication and the pure infrastructure in terms of like taking trading seriously and teaching technical trading really wasn't a big deal. So for me, the fundamental side was always a bit thin. Like I saw coins pump like stupid amounts just because they had some announcement that their website was going to get like a graphic update, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, and constant scams as well, like literal fake news, like the patient Tory, were like picture with George fucking Bush, FDA approval. Like, dude, there's just so much crap that comes to mind. And in terms of just more generally valuing these things from a fundamental point of view, I just felt like you needed like some sort of either finance or computer science background or something, some merger of the two, to do it properly. So I was like, well, that's not going to be my edge, So I think, but given it's a very retail heavy market, maybe trading will work. So I tried to learn how to trade off crypto Twitter, but for reasons that I just mentioned, the educational side
right.
and that whole infrastructure not being available, it was really fucking hard, man. Once you're off baby pips, you're kind of on your own. And you saw these big accounts posting TA and all these wedges, patterns, and all this stuff that goes over your head. God forbid you ask them a question or DM them. Obviously, they had a paid group, and the only way you kind of learn anything is by joining their paid group, right? And at the time, I think it was the standard industry rate was 0.1 Bitcoin per month, and I was, law student going to uni in London, so I don't have fucking, tons of disposable income at the time.
Right.
So I was just like burning through money trying to learn how to trade technicals from guys who didn't know much themselves, right? So I was like, this is some bullshit. The guys who are actually big, or at least the ones that I followed at the time, as I said, with some notable exceptions, I'm like, these guys have no fucking idea what's going on, right? I didn't need to understand like good technical trading to understand when someone's kind of blagging it, right? Making it up as they go along, or they don't have a system, or in over their head. You know what I mean, right? So you don't even need to be an expert in a certain subject.
It's the bullshit meter. Yeah.
It's the bullshit meter. Yeah, you don't need to be an expert in that specific domain to be able to tell when someone's in over their head, right?
Yep.
So it was that exact same thing. And that's when I started looking elsewhere, because I was like, okay, look, technical trading's cool. I think there's something there. Certainly won't be fundamental, so where can I go learn? And so I thought, why am I spending my time in the crypto market? Why don't I go to like Forex or something? And maybe there are some technical trading people or resources there. Market's been around for much longer. It's blah, 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 blah. Long story short, found Trader Dante's stuff, easily. I've tweeted before that if I didn't find this stuff, I would have very likely just quit trading as a whole, because it just wasn't making any sense and I couldn't find anything that resonated with me. And so, yeah, basically capitulated off crypto Twitter, having lost money on some shitty education and paid groups, found the Forex guys that aren't scammers, which is a dwindling minority, and kind of went from there, man. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that's a great answer, because It's interesting. So you had no trading background before any of this, correct? Then, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because now all your education and stuff that's out there, anybody can learn to do this off of all the things that you've learned and put back out into the space. So I'm sure everybody's grateful for that. So, you have your Telegram group, you have at least 30 or so videos here on YouTube, you have your free study guide out there. So kind of talk about what got you there to be able to put all these, or to, want to put all these out and make these videos and kind of pass along the education that you've learned.
Sure. I'd say, as I say, like, context matters a lot, right? So the very fact that when I started off, those resources, again, beyond Baby Pips and a couple of good accounts on Twitter, really weren't available, at least not in a kind of structured and systematic way that I'd like to think that my stuff is. It just wasn't really there, or at least it wasn't obvious if it was, so apologies to anyone who may have been in that position. So I think a part of it certainly comes to that, as in basic or introductory, even though my stuff, I think, at this point goes beyond introductory, but at the very least, like, the basics, they shouldn't be hard to find, and I don't think it's particularly reasonable to rush to make a crypto course or monetize like really, really basic technical trading, right? And so for me, that was a big part. People shouldn't have to fucking waste money buying a trading course if they just want to get a rough idea of how to read a candlestick chart, right?
Yep.
So I guess that was one of the things. The second thing was, I mean, I got good feedback, right? Quite simply, right. I'd make, either a couple of write-ups or make some of my early videos, and people would really like them. So I was like, well, fuck it, it helps me, it helps other people, why not? What I do want to clarify is people have this really weird vision a lot of the time, and they'll DM me that I'm some grand fucking architect, and they'll be like, oh, bro, you've played this game amazingly, you're like playing the long game, this, that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? I just started making these videos in like a completely stupid order, like basically random, until I realized that they're getting some traction and people enjoyed them, at which point I was like, well, maybe I should add some meat, bones, and structure to this thing. Like, my first lesson in my technical analysis series on YouTube or whatever, literally how to read a candlestick chart, is one of my last fucking video, like one of my most recent videos. That makes absolutely no sense, right? If you're making like a chronological trading course, you start with the candlestick stuff and then you go on and you build upon that. Like, in my case, it's all over the place. So it wasn't the case that I was like, look, I'm gonna, fucking corner this market and just do all the education stuff and I've got this grand bloody vision now, man. I just kind of winged it, based on good feedback, and I enjoyed it myself, and it just seemed like the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's good to hear. You know what I mean? Doesn't that make you feel nice? Because
totally.
I was going to say you are 100% correct when you say it timing has so much to do with it. Because Bunchu and I have been putting out A+ content for over a year now, and have seen zero ground, just due to the fact that we were in a bear market for the most part. So
that's not true. We built this thing from scratch.
We did. Wait till the next bull run; it's going to be on fire. So
yeah, we'll keep on the sun.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it plays a huge part, and the amount of attention you get, and how much interest there is generally, how easy it is to get traction and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it totally depends.
Chamber's been tweeting 10 times a day for the past year and a half, and he's gotten like 3 followers.
Yeah, they're all my alt accounts. I do have a serious question though. Cred, why wouldn't you? Is it just because you're just at the end of the day just a great person? Like, why wouldn't you have a paid group and take everybody's money? Because I'm sure people would line up to give you 0.2 BTC even.
Sure. I mean, there are a couple of reasons. Just to set the scene, it was quite funny. I was in the final few months of my undergraduate degree, right? So it's a 3-year degree. I'd finished everything, and I just had my final exams left, right? And I had people, unironically, DMing me, tweeting at me, telling me like, "Oh, dude, why the fuck are you, doing school? Just drop out and make a paid group." right? So this is
Right.
literally like 90% of a 3-year degree done, and people thought it was a smart decision, and in full seriousness, telling me to drop out and to, you know, spend my life babysitting people in Discord, which is just unfathomably stupid, right? Long story short, well, I mean, regulatory risk, first and foremost. It's just not something I want to deal with, probably because of my background and stuff, but a lot of the way some of these groups operate isn't entirely compliant with applicable laws, right? I think
I was
that's
going
what
to
I
say,
should say on that topic.
you did say it was a law degree, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I'm a lot more risk averse in that regard, I suppose, than a lot of people. So I don't want to deal with the regulatory stuff. I don't think it's a good business model either after a certain point, you know, because I think a lot of these groups have an inherent ceiling. Like, are you going to be able to deal with a Discord of more than, say, 100, 150 people on your own? Probably not, right? So if you're a big account, like let's say in my case, you've got, you know, way too many followers, is it really effective to just say, you know, I'm going to offer a paid product, but it will only be able to reach, you know, a tiny percentage of my overall following, right? It's not particularly effective, I think, business-wise to do that. And lastly, dude, I don't want to fucking babysit people in Discord all day. I mean, that's probably worse than like a full-time job, right? Because I've seen friends who have, you know, Discords and they invite me and just I get to see a lot of it. And it just looks terrible a lot of the time, man. People feel so entitled to your time just because they pay you. It's just not the kind of environment I want to be in. And just not, I think there are much more scalable and legally compliant and superior products that you can offer. And I have nothing against monetization, obviously. Actually, it may not be obvious, but I don't. I just don't think it's a particularly good deal on many fronts. The regulatory front, commercially, and just in terms of what the day-to-day looks like as a paid group leader, you know, memes aside, it's just not something that I find particularly appealing. Is the money great? I mean, sure, especially given loads of these guys pay no tax, they don't register anything, and just get, you know, pure checks at the end of the month for posting charts in the Discord server. Like, I get that. But I still think it's a bit greedy and narrow-minded. And purely well, it's not greedy, it's just ineffective, right? And purely observationally, a lot of these groups flop quite quickly. And a lot of these groups kill accounts quite quickly. So you'll have these big Twitter accounts that have a lot of engagement, they're very popular. They hit a paid group, it starts to take up all of their free time. Their Twitter feed becomes empty except for call this in my Discord type of shit. And then they slowly fucking fade into irrelevance, you know? People become defined by their paid group as opposed to it just being a facet of their income and lose the broader audience base that they were curating. So I think it's kind of it sets a kind of decay, if you will, on your account in many cases we've seen with, you know, loads of people. So for all those reasons, and because I don't want to babysit people who think they own me, not for me, guys.
That's funny. So, you know, you mentioned that you tried to originally learn how to trade on Twitter, and you realized some of the people on there don't know what they're talking about. Who on Twitter do you think would post good stuff that, you know, somebody might be able to go look and say, hey, you know, this guy knows what they're talking about.
I thought you were going to ask me who were those people.
No, I wasn't going to do that.
I
wanted to do that, but I went the other way instead. Who do you like? Yeah.
No, that was good. It depends on what you like or what kind of content resonates with you. I mean, my boy Donald is, you know, magnificent for obvious reasons. I think Loomdart is really good, and if you put a bit of effort into studying he won't give it to you on a plate a lot of the time. It's very trendy for people to post like quote unquote clean charts and make it seem like really obvious and cool with like 2 lines it's going to happen, which isn't how trading works a lot of the time. So Loomdart is kind of embrace the chaos type of thing, which I really like. Gosh, I'm struggling to think of. I'm going to feel like such an idiot listening to the playback of this. I mean, yeah, let's start there, right? Loomdart, Donald are really good, and there are a bunch of other people. I mean, Luke Martin, Venture Coinist, posts some good stuff as well. Trader XOXO posts nice charts. I mean, there are a bunch of people who I think know what they're doing, but the way they present their information and how much of it they present and all of that kind of stuff will, of course, have an effect on whether you think it's a useful follow or not. Like, some people will really just want the kind of hold your hand education side of things, whereas others will just want to see how a pro goes about their business, right? So it really depends. If you're listening to this and you just want to get a rough idea, go to my profile, click on my following. Unless I'm using someone to counter trade, which I have, I do follow a couple of those people.
That's awesome.
For the most part, the people I follow are more probably above average or somewhat decent, reasonably competent, all that kind of stuff, right?
So needless to say, Chamber Cred.
I'm definitely not on that list. Sorry.
I have muted a lot of people that I follow as well. It's just a time sink, Twitter, honestly. I'm sure you gentlemen are aware of this, but...
Yeah, Chamber tweets 12 times a day.
I'm muted on most people's timeline.
He's muted on my timeline, and he's one of my best buddies now. So, next question is, there's a lot of different ways people trade, indicators, all this stuff. You trade basically purely price action. Why price action for you?
Well, because it worked best for me, I suppose, is this very simple answer. I like trading systems, as in having rules that I can follow and can tell me when to enter a trade, how to manage it, and, basically the anatomy of a trade from step one to completion. I like for it to be reasonably systematized and well prescribed, right? Admittedly, over time, I've kind of been going from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I started off, or at least when I kind of learned how to trade properly, I had very strict rules that left much less space for discretion. Whereas nowadays, I kind of have a much better feel for the market, which a lot of people are going to grimace at. But I think if you stare at an asset... I think so, man. If you stare at a chart for as many hours a day as I do, you just kind of... And I've taken that many trades, and I still do all the procedural stuff. Like, I've got a trading journal where where I'll journal my trades. I have like a little separate journal where I post like observations and just general things I notice. So I still put in the groundwork, but on the specific rule side of things, I'm a bit more lax. So to come back to your question, why the price stuff? It's because I find it easiest, or found it easiest at the time, to be very systematic if I'm dealing with fewer things, right? So if you're, for example, adding 3 indicators that you look at to your usual repertoire of charts, you then have to consider how each indicator, or perhaps a combination of indicators, affects your trading system, right? And you can quickly start to see how that gets complicated. Like, what if 2 indicators are telling you can take an entry, but one of them is telling you that you can't, right? Or 2 bearish, 1 bullish, or, what if they're telling you different information? Do you then create like a hierarchy? Under what conditions do you ignore certain indicators over others? Like, I can kind of go on, but I'm sure you get the rough idea. It's just more variables to deal with, would be the short answer. And at the time, I just found it cleared out a lot, made a lot of headspace available, not having to think about all these indicators. It worked well, and I just haven't had a need to go back to it since. That doesn't mean I think indicator trading's bad, right? I think that's a thing that a lot of people fuck up when they look at price. I mean, price action traders, or whatever that means, get this wrong as well. And they give off the effect that the only reason that they use nothing but price is because all indicators are shit, or they're all terrible and you shouldn't use indicators and so on, which I think is absurd, and it's just, I think it's mostly a matter of personal preference. So for my specific circumstances, early on I just find it easier to come up with a rigid-ish trading system that used no indicators, and I've kind of developed on that without there being much of a need. That's not the same as saying I think trading with them is bad, or that they don't have a place in a good trading system, right?
So, somebody learning how to trade, what would be your biggest piece of advice, or a couple pieces of advice for somebody learning how to trade, other than, hey, go look at my free stuff?
I'll say you need a journal, and there are 2 things that you should keep a record of. First of all is yourself, right? So your trading, how you feel entering trades, your views on the market, just kind of you as a person, keep a record. And the second, your standard trading journal. But the second facet of that journal, or basically the act of record keeping, I'd say is you need to keep some sort of either pattern book, chart book, log book, or basically ledger of observations for the specific market or markets that you're trading, right? There are certain setups that you will learn from technical analysis videos, textbooks, whatever it may be, that will either work exceptionally well in your market or not work at all in your market, right? Some time frames will be better than others, some setups will be better than others, some patterns will be better than others, some trading sessions, days of the week will offer certain setups that work better. There's just so much you can derive from careful observation, and there's no way that you can do any of that particularly effectively without keeping a record, right? To give a basic example, one of the, I suppose, tenets of support resistance trading, right, is that when classically, if you have a level of support that's broken and price comes back to it, you expect that to act as resistance, right? That's fairly uncontroversial. Now, in some markets, that will work really bloody well, right? You've got a very clean level, it's broken. If price comes back, more often than not, you'll get a chance to sell it and it'll give you a trade, right? On Bitcoin, on an intraday basis, that is literally one of the worst performing setups that you can trade, right? You will not find an easier way to lose money trading Bitcoin than shorting like intraday short-term broken support turned resistance. And 6,000 is the perfect example of that. Even before the bottom came in, at 3.1, 3.2, whatever it was, on the way down, that was still true, right? You have broken support. People are like, oh, we're in a bear market, I'm selling this level. It would get smoked. And the only way you could kind of arrive at these conclusions, like, it's a totally valid setup, right? The support resistance flip, right, whatever. But unless you study your market and make notes and do your homework, you'll just keep losing money doing the same things. So to come back full circle, I think just keeping a record of both yourself and the markets you trade when you're starting out is invaluable. And I wish I'd done it sooner, to be honest, because I had to learn most of my lessons through losing a shit ton of money. Not even a shit ton of money per se, more so a shit ton of trades. And I was just like, look, this is a lot of the setups that I teach and trade myself have been derived in one way or another from losing trades, right? Like, I'll try to buy or sell a certain level of structure, and I'll get stopped out, and then price just comes back to the level and reacts perfectly and flies away. And I just think, this is some bullshit, right? I got the level right, I got the direction right, but somehow price has stopped me out. Like, what the fuck's going on, And the only way you can kind of slowly, it's kind of a war of attrition or get to the truth is via observation and study. And I think journaling is the most effective way of doing that. Like, one of my most recent support resistance videos, I teach a specific setup that forms around support resistance levels. And I remember the specific trade that got me really interested in studying or arriving at this setup. Ethereum dollar had an amazing level at like 140 or something, perfect number of touches, amazing like little shelf. It breaks out and I'm like, oh man, this is so sexy. I can't wait to buy the other side of this. And it was like at the fucking top, man. I got stopped out like in the same candle that I bought, and then it was a full-on fucking trend reversal from there,
Wow.
And I'm like, this is some bullshit, man. Like, this is an A+ level in any form of technical analysis. This level is amazing. How have I just bought the top? Do you know what I mean? And so a lot of the time, a lot of the setups or little rules that I have, they've come from me recording and analyzing and going over trades that have gone against me, right? There's an insistence, or I think people get the tone when it comes to losers wrong a lot of the time on crypto Twitter. You'll see something like, well, okay, my risk was managed, stop loss triggered, on to the next one. It's like, well, yeah, but no, right?
Right, you still lost.
You still lost, and it's great that your risk was managed. I mean, that's something you worry about before the trade, right? Like, that's not, there's nothing new there. In terms of new stuff that you can learn from, what I like to do, or I still do it to this day, but early on it played a really important part. If I got stopped out of a trade, like trading a support resistance level, I'd keep that level on my chart, right? And I'd see how price would react either after I got stopped out or when it came back to it days, weeks later, and see kind of, is there any behavior there that could have either kept me out of the trade in the first place or that I can get involved in subsequently, right? So I wouldn't be dismissive of losers either. And coming back to the original point, a good trading journal won't let you do that either, right? Because you review your winners, your losers, and you kind of see what's up. So that's a very long way of saying journal yourself and journal the market that you trade. Yeah,
it makes sense, and that's a good example of why you would want to do that, right? Because I'm pretty sure everybody would recommend that you do a trading journal, right? But that's a really good real life explanation of why it's so important, because, and I think the hardest part about that is discipline, and being honest with yourself and just doing it, you know what I mean? Because that's the part that I struggle with, is the discipline aspect of the trading journal portion, but it also keeps me, when I am doing it, it keeps me from over trading as well, which is a problem that I've had in the past. And so, for sure. Now, we talked all about becoming a trader and everything like that. Where do we say the market is going crazy right now in the last week or so? Where do you kind of see us at the moment for Bitcoin?
Yeah. I mean, at the time of recording, price is 82.82 on BitMEX, which of course you wouldn't know about because you're American, so you've never heard of this exchange.
What's BitMEX? I've never.
Exactly. I mean, context-wise, the way I look at it is when we have these major levels of either major ranges or major levels of support that have been around for a while that are broken, I don't like to trade or try to knife catch the first impulse down, right? Mm-hmm. So 6K is the classic example. When 6K broke down, my personal technical view was that you're going to lose, or you're very likely to lose money if you try to knife catch this, right? And even if you do manage to catch a nice entry from the 6K breakdown, the chances that you get impatient, puke it early, cut it too early, all these kind of subsequent risks, even if you have a nice entry, basically make it not worth catching the knife, right? And I have I essentially feel the same about this range breakdown, right? We've broken down from like 100 days of consolidation. If this is the start of a new trend, then I expect the new trend to reflect the fact that we've been consolidating for such a long time, right? And given that, I don't want to be fading what could be the early formation of a new trend, right? I even remember, again, to go back to the 6,000 level, people were thinking, oh, well, if 6K breaks down, we'll have like a quick spike, like one weekly candle to 4.8K, and then, we'll go straight back up. Although that's obviously not what happened, right? Because what that actually was the formation of a new trend. So long story short, I think for most people listening, especially if they're not like day traders, scalpers, whatever, we had a breakdown from a huge weekly level at like 9.3, 9.5, whatever you want to call that range low that we were in. If you're interested in being a buyer in this market, at least this is my personal view, usual financial advice stuff, don't be an idiot, blah, blah, blah. My personal view is that it's much better to be a buyer in a strong market that's proven to you that, especially the way Bitcoin behaves, that broken support has failed to turn to resistance, right? So in 2018, or specifically, I suppose, on the breakdown in 2019, that was price blasting through the 6K level, right? Once that happened, we had very clear, trend reversal, and price went up basically vertically with no heat. I imagine the same would happen if we trade to 9.3, 9.5 and blast it, right? So in terms of this being a buyer's market, could you make an argument for trying to catch the knife down here, sort of scale in at 7.6, 7.4, I mean, sure, you could. But then the risk you take there is that you're wrong, obviously, but not only that, but that you're fading or trying to buy the first leg or the first consolidation of what could be a new trend forming, right? And that risk to me is kind of just not worth it, at least from the way I trade, from a high time frame perspective. If you want to scalp in this range and do all the intraday shit and do all of that, that's great. But I like when I go on podcasts and stuff and talk about price, I like for it to have some sort of the expiry date that isn't tomorrow, so to speak, right?
Right. Yep.
So my personal view, if you're interested in being bullish, historically people, even if they get it right, they still manage to lose money on trying to catch the knife, right?
Right.
I think if we trade anywhere near 94, 9,500, Bitcoin will do its typical thing where the quote-unquote bearish retest of broken support turned resistance gets absolutely bazookaed, right? I think if we even, trading close to 9.3, 9.5 would be bullish for me. And I think that would be very good bullish evidence. We'll probably go up to like 11 and basically go back into the range, right?
Yep.
In terms of knife catching levels, I mean, God knows, we're kind of at support now, we were in the middle or lower half of sevens, so the 7,000 price handle. But if this is indeed like the last macro breakdown we had, the formation of a new trend, I mean, sevens isn't going to do anything apart from provide a good bounce, right? So I suppose the most reasonable, conservative, I think, safe play that has worked as well, on previous range breakdowns that I can offer from my perspective to the listeners is leave the attempted knife catching to the traders and the scalpers and all that type of people who think they have an edge in that type of market. If you're looking at it from a higher time frame perspective, investor perspective, swing, all of that, We have very similar structure to 2018, where we have a massive level that was broken. If that level gets smashed back up to the upside, which I think if it trades to, it will, then you probably have a free ride, much like in the first quarter of this year, to, well, back to the range, so at least 11 to start with. So I suppose in one sentence, looks shit for now. If it gets above 9.395, it won't look shit, and I think if it gets that close, it will. But knife catching season until proven otherwise, I suppose, would be my answer. I'm always really terrible at price predictions in podcasts. I just don't get into it way too much. But
which jacket do you wear for knife catching season?
Yeah, my Moscow winter coat, I think, is most suitable. It's just a certain perceived sexiness and like trying to catch the bottom. What most people don't realize is even if a lot of the traders who do, they'll end up like. Because there's a risk that it's not the bottom, and so their trade management goes out the fucking window a lot of the time. Even if you catch like 7, 8, 7, whatever it may be, and we trade back to 9.3, they'll probably start cutting into 9,000 because they're just so risk averse, and they've held the position from the bottom and don't want to give it up. Whereas it's my personal view, and from experience, anecdote, etc., the people who sold on the 6K breakdown and said fuck this market and bought when it got back above 6 had a much nicer time and probably made much more money than those who were trying to knife catch and hold swing trades from 3,000 for weeks. It's just observation.
Yeah, it almost seems a little. It's funny because it almost seems a little counterintuitive, right? So
yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, well, you're probably listening, like, oh, well, you could buy now at 8,000, and if it goes. Why would I buy at 94? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it does, unless you understand why, like you said, it might be a little counterintuitive,
Oh, I totally agree. But it's just the temptation to be involved in the trade, right? Mm-hmm. And especially when you think, when you have a really fast move down, it's a lot of it's psychological. You have a really fast move down and people weren't on board that move, and they feel the itch to trade, and they're like, well, Christ, I just saw this really, I could have made so much money if I was short. I really want to make some money. How do I get involved in the trade? And they usually open up and see like, oh, we're oversold and all this shit, so I'm just going to long, hoping that, the move up is basically retraces the full move down just because they're in a trade now, right? Like the market doesn't care whether you miss the move or you're in a trade, not in a trade, your stop is a break even. Like it doesn't give a shit. It's not a sentient thing that knows these things per se, right? If you miss the trade, you miss the trade. You're not owed anything in that regard. I'm just getting not flashbacks to 6K in the sense of oh, that's it, bear market, trend reversal, etc. What I do think is comparable is the fact that the knife catchers will always struggle, at least on the high time frame chart, and the people who are willing to wait and buy higher up. Will usually have a much more stress-free ride, which usually translates to better trade management and could mean better results as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Chamber, any other questions before we move on to some fun?
No, I am just taking all the notes that I can at this point. So far, I've only written down market buy Bitcoin. That's
I mean, it's different for investors, right? Like if you're bullish and you're seeing this as like cheap, which is, okay, that's not a framework that I'm hugely adept in, but if you're kind of a dollar cost average type of person and do all of that, that's absolutely fine. But purely as a technical guy, right, I agree, exactly. It's much different. But as a technical guy, I can tell you that this asset likes to offer continuation after strong moves up, right? So 6K broke down, that was the formation of a new trend, and we shat for a while, right? On the upside, 4.1K, we had a range. People seem to forget, but after we hit that big drop from 5K when it bottomed at 3.5 or something, we then formed a range between kind of 3.4, 3.5 and 4K. Once that range broke out, we also had trend continuation from 4 all the way to 13, 14. So there tends to be really solid follow through when these long lasting ranges break down. And so what we've had in the weekly, we had a similar range, and it's broken down at the moment. Do I want to buy the first candle or the first consolidation after a breakdown like that, given what I've just said? My personal view is no, not at least not on a swing, whatever macro basis. What we do know works is that when it comes back to these levels and they fail, just like at 6,000, that's when you know that the sellers are offside and it's a strong market. So I'm happy to wait for that.
It's unreal. This is free content, people. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable content.
All right, we are going to move on from the technical interview questions. Yes, and we are going to go into what we do best, the fun and games. And so this is the segment that we like to call Rekt Rapid Fire. So we are going to just throw you a bunch of questions, more just about yourself, just to let the people get to know Cred, right? Okay. So I'll start one. Some might be crypto, some might not be. So
this is going to be the blow off top on my follow account. Like,
you mentioned back in your early days of crypto, you had bought a bunch of alts. What was the first altcoin? We won't count Ethereum. What is the first altcoin you ever bought?
Sia coin.
Oh wow, okay. I held some Sia for a long time. Chamber, have you ever held Sia coin?
I don't think I have. Out of all the alts that I've purchased in my day, I don't.
Come on, bro. Decentralized YouTube. Once PewDiePie moves over, it's all over.
I feel like there's been 9 decentralized YouTubes. I feel like I definitely own 3 of them.
I remember owning Sia coin when on like the day that McAfee tweeted about it.
Of course, yeah, I remember that.
And I couldn't try to sell it fast enough. It was going crazy, and I remember going downstairs. It was like around Christmas time, and my brother, I was like, "Did you see McAfee tweeted about Sia coin?" Oh my God! All right, Chamber, you got one?
All right, Cred. I'm actually not American. I'm Canadian, and when you're Canadian, you kind of have this balance between American culture and British culture. So when the event comes up, I do like to flex my British knowledge and British
weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. Weird flex, but we'll go with it. So what I like to use is the UK terms as much as possible when I am speaking to a somebody from across the pond, if you will.
Sure.
So what is your favorite takeaway food? So for those of you listening,
I'm assuming that means fast food.
That is, like any sort of
takeout, right?
Takeaway, exactly.
Oh man, I love a good Indian. It just has to be said. Yeah,
it's so good, and I've been to England once, and the Indian food in England is
it's unbelievable.
See, that sounds like it would be like Rocky Mountain oysters to me.
You
go to India to get Indian food.
Well,
right?
you don't. Yeah, I mean, you have to understand your history at this point.
I guess that's true. Yes, that's true.
So we've got, the colonization, of course, itself was. I mean, Christ, the atrocity is not even going to touch that.
Are we not going to get into that right now?
No. But
that's all right. Columbus Day is coming up soon over here, so
that's fun, isn't it? All that aside, not to downplay it or whatever, but purely talking takeout and food.
Yeah, silver lining.
Yeah, silver lining. Jesus, man. Look, Indian food's fucking great, and we're lucky to have as much and the quality that we do all across the UK. But no, that will be my favorite, man. Like pizza and that you can get anywhere. Like the pizza in New York's better than the pizza in London. Like that's indisputably true. Mm-hmm. Undisputably true. I think it's undisputably true. God,
I think it's.
We're not going to dispute. We're not going to dispute.
We're not going to dispute un versus in here. It's indisputable.
But yeah, no, I think Indian food for me, man. All the other stuff you can get anywhere else, and you can probably get a better version. But I think Indian food in the UK, you have to. That's it for me.
That's good. All right, my next one here. Where do I want to go? How about? Who is your celebrity crush?
Ooh, God, you know what? I'm really shit at popular media culture type of stuff. So I mean, unless 2D girls count, but no, I'm joking, of course. What's that bird's name? Have you seen like Suicide Squad or whatever? All that kind of Joker's girlfriend, that
Chamber
blonde Australian chick.
What's her name? She was on.
Is she a Robbie? Is she a Margot?
Yeah, Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie.
Oh yeah, she's in The Big Short.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Of course, she's
she's in
Wolf
The Big
of
Short.
Wall Street.
That's a
as
good
well.
one.
That's right. Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street's the one. That's
That's
uh,
the one. Of course, I go to fucking obscure failed movie Suicide Squad.
yeah, Suicide Squad. Remember?
I'm like, oh, Big Shorts.
Yeah, we can tell who the fucking traitor is in
No,
the room.
yeah, nope, not me.
No kidding.
Not me either, apparently.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, I got a question for you. Let's go with, we're going to be, by the time this drops, it'll be October, so we should ask a Halloween-based question. Cred, what, through your childhood, through your adulthood, what was your favorite Halloween costume?
Oh, God. Well, the thing is, I grew up in Moscow and then moved to the UK when I was 10
Oh, for
or so.
real?
And in neither of those places is Halloween a particularly big deal. But in terms of costumes, I really like those... You know, there's costumes where there's like it's like someone's carrying you. You like put your legs
Yeah.
through it, and kind of walk around like you're on that sitting on that person's neck. There's a really funny one that I'm going to probably get for this Halloween, and the person carrying you is Vladimir Putin, the Russian president. I think that would look quite funny. They've got all they've got all of them, like a Trump one and the Kim
That's
Jong.
terrific.
Yeah.
Really
So I think
funny.
I'll get one of those, but. I used to do the shitty type of, Grim Reaper and all the other shit, but nothing particularly interesting. I think I'll give a more, concerted effort this year to put on a proper costume. But you know what? It's kind of dead here, man. It's a very
Halloween? Not a big thing there?
It's not huge, not at all, man.
Interesting. You better get something spooky over there.
They're
asking
last
for it.
Halloween,
They're
I was
asking for
in
something
fucking
spooky.
Vegas for World Crypto Cons. I mean, compared to last year, the festivities.
Oh, you were there
are gonna be
last year?
Yeah, I was, mate. I was.
Was it, because that was right around Halloween. Same.
Yeah,
this
it
year,
was.
right?
I think Halloween Day was. Yeah,
Are you going again this year?
No, fuck that, man. Absolutely not. I think with Vegas, like you go once and you
That's
walk
enough.
down the strip one way, you walk down the strip the other way. 30 minutes have passed, and you've kind of seen everything. In that regard,
I get the idea.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of. I mean, it does what it says on the tin, right? Which is great, but not worth the 11-hour direct flight.
Yeah,
If
that's
you're
tough.
lucky.
I forget it's so long.
It's just
yeah.
the wrong fucking coast,
And it's
man.
like 6 time zones for you or
bollocks,
whatever.
mate,
So.
bollocks. And the conference was shit. I mean, it's nice to meet people and see them, but I mean, not again. I've kind of once you do Vegas once, I think unless you actually love the stuff to do there, for the PG people, like gambling and all that kind of stuff. Like I gamble for a living as it is. I don't need. They need to do that in a place where I don't have an edge.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I'm not going. The thing is, my Rekt story will take us back to that conference. So don't worry.
Oh,
about
all right.
it.
Well, should we go?
Yeah, let's
do you have
hop
any
into
more?
it.
Oh fuck. Okay. So the Crypto Dog's a great guy, right? And he was hosting this. I mean, he's very well connected, obviously. And he was hosting this kind of drinks, open bar, whatever thing at the Aria with a bunch of who knows what, right? I just heard open bar and I was like, I'll see you there, mate. And so I walked over there with Don Alt at the time. And, we're chatting to some people, etc., etc. And long story short, I get blackout drunk and kind of escorted out of the out of the premises that I'd been so kindly invited to. I'm fucking nobody, and he's like, come to this open bar thing. There's like investors and all this networking. I'm like, yeah, cool, man. Black out and get kicked out. And then Altcoin Psycho and Donald carry me to my fucking room. Take my shoes off and shit. Put the bin on the bed, a bin on the bed next to me, and I wake up at 6 a.m. fully fucking terrified with memory loss. So that was great.
Wow.
So you had a great time at the conference.
I had a great
That's
time,
what
man,
it
yeah.
sounds like.
Wow. So shout
that's
out to Altcoin Psycho and Don Alt for taking care of you, tucking you in. That's nice.
Of course, yeah. No, I was spoiled rotten, mate. Surprised one of them wasn't cuddling me in the morning.
I
feel like you'd take care of me.
100%. I like to be the person because I will get I will get fairly intoxicated, but it does take a lot. So for the most part, somebody will get blackout drunk before I'm at that point.
That's me too. I'm the dad of the group.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to make sure people are people are having fun.
I'm like the drunk dad.
Yeah, 100%. I'm drunk dad. I would be cuddling with you.
Yeah, I'm like the dad that drinks a 30-pack to prove to his son he's a man. Like I'm that dad,
and then drives him home, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
The thing is, I got scammed, right? So I was quite moderate in my drinking. And then I was just getting whiskeys from the bar, and they just changed bartender. So whatever I was getting, I didn't know the fucking name, right? I don't know these things. And so I was like, oh, I'll just get, what do you recommend? And he gives me this name. I was fine up until this point, right? I mean, I was syncing them. I was fine. And he was like, oh, I asked him for his recommendation, and he gave it to me. And then he's like, careful, man, that's very strong. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be all right. And that's the last thing I remember. So I guess he was right.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh, man, that's good. All right, we have one more thing here that we're going to do before we let you go.
Sure.
I came across this today, and I'm sure people have probably seen it on Twitter. It went like crazy viral and had a million.
I just tweeted it out from the Rekt podcast account.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. So people will see this. Somebody sent it to me in our group chat today on of a text with a bunch of my friends, and basically. It is. How would you describe? What are we calling this?
We're calling this segment "Fictitious Fisticuffs."
Wow.
All right, and so what this is it's a chart, and it's got, I guess, a bunch of like brand mascots is what you would call them.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then it's a sliding
I guess
scale.
we could have called it mascot melee too.
Ooh,
I mean,
mayhem.
Yeah,
mayhem.
That's right. I like that.
Or what was the other one? Cartoon combat.
Cartoon combat. Yeah, I like that.
You've really done your homework for this show. Huh?
Look, this is the stuff we're good at.
That's exactly right. We stay in our lane.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, what it is there's a scale, and it says. They would absolutely kick my ass, and it's got a bunch of mascots. Then it says, what would be a fair fight in this person's eyes? And then I could definitely kick their ass on the lower end. So I'll start here in the I could definitely kick their ass. It has the Keebler Elf, Mr. Peanut, the Hamburger Helper hand, the Pillsbury Doughboy, the Quaker Oats guy, and the Gerber baby.
This is so North America centric. These icons. I know I can recognize like a third, maybe. But I'll have to judge by physical appearance.
Which one are you familiar with?
Which one are you familiar with?
And
the could you kick their ass?
Okay, if we're starting with that category, I disagree with the Quaker Oats guy.
100%. I'm with you.
I think that's fiction. I think he'll come out with that kind of old man strength.
And this is
absolutely.
The hardened kind of times, you've got no idea how easy you have it, and just pound you into the
Now,
ground.
that being said, Quakers are notorious for their peaceful ways. They've actually in drafts in North America, Quakers are the only ones that were exempt from being drafted into war. So you could maybe punch them and they wouldn't punch you back. So
I'm familiar with the religious connotations.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I think it's fiction, mate. It's just a front.
You think
it's like a shell company.
If you go threaten that guy's family,
that's what I mean.
Listen here, English. Whap right in the kisser.
I mean the Quakers. Yeah, again, agree. Historically and theologically, all that stuff. Non-violent, blah blah blah. I think it's bait. Like you make that guy feel threatened. I think he pulls something out of the bag, and it's nothing good.
No, I tend to agree.
That's the one that is totally, and he's like on the far scale.
Yes, he is the one that's easiest to fight.
He's on the far right.
He's on the far right. They're saying the Gerber baby is slightly more difficult.
Are you going to punch a baby though, for real?
Hey, look, I'll tell you this: fighting babies is easy.
It's in my wheelhouse.
It is easy. All right, Pillsbury Doughboy, I agree with. I could kick his ass. Keebler Elf, you could kick his ass.
I mean, Keebler Elf has magic though. It's an elf.
Ooh,
it has magic.
Interesting.
And
look at that thing, man.
I know. I hear you.
Right,
Not a lot of magic.
He's old and he's tiny. He's an elf, so you could like step on him.
I guess.
If I had magical powers, the first thing I'd do is make myself not look like that. Right?
Yeah, make myself not an elf.
All right, so then
it's quite limited.
In the slightly easier to beat, but you could still kick their ass, the Mr. Peanut and the Hamburger Helper glove. What are your thoughts there?
I'm quite worried about Mr. Peanut's weapon, right?
Yeah, he does.
It just looks like a stick or like a cane, but what if it's like, Kingpin from fucking Spider-Man and shit? His cane could do all kinds of spooky shit. like weaponized type of thing. So I mean, I'd be kind of worried. Also, those with peanut allergies, obviously.
Absolutely, that's a good point.
So I mean, he's got quite a, he's got some tricks up his sleeve. But yeah, no, I'd kick his ass. I mean, look at him. He's skinny arms and legs. Snap his shit up, mate. He's got
Chamber,
no chance.
do you know the game Cards Against Humanity?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite cards is actually Breaking Mr. Peanut's Brittle Body. So I think you could kick his ass pretty easily.
I agree.
I think so.
I'm not sold on being able to kick the shit out of the Hamburger Helper hand.
Me either.
He's all fist. It's
well, that
he's 100% fist.
If you look up the Hamburger Helper glove, I believe on like Wikipedia, apparently he's like 8 feet tall.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
this is an 8-foot fist.
We went real deep today in this conversation that we had. So I don't know, but I think you probably could wear him down, but I'm not sure. So then
that one looks tough. I mean, the surface area of attack seems quite limited
exactly,
as well.
Exactly. So. The slightly leaning towards it would be a fair
like
fight.
A fair fight, yeah.
But on the I could kick their ass side is the yellow M&M, which I think is ranked far too high. I think he belongs in probably one of the easiest to beat.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
He's all chocolate.
Well, he's also the dumb M&M. Like,
right.
The other M&M is on the
at least the other one's streetwise.
Right. Like this guy, he doesn't have it all. He's not all there.
I agree.
Then Diggum from Sugar Smacks, he's bitch made. He doesn't even belong on this list. I could crush this guy.
I mean, I'd keep him alive just to take his lunch money every week.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah,
Stable
right,
source of
exactly.
income, but yeah, I mean,
that's it. You're his paid group leader now. And then this is the Lucky Charms elf. Does he have a name?
I want to say Patio Tool. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. He's not an elf. He's a leprechaun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's a leprechaun.
Patio Tool is his name for this segment.
It's the most leprechaun name I can think of.
Yeah, I feel like he's probably properly ranked.
Yeah, again, magic component to him. Also, the movie, those leprechaun horror movies as a child used to scare the shit out of me. So,
thing is, we have historically quite some issue with Irish people and violence in the UK and civil unrest. I mean, if he's trained in,
are we saying the Irish are naturally, one to fight?
Don't try this.
I can attest. So that's what I mean. Like, if he's Irish, then he should be towards the other side.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
He would. I mean, you can't put him in the same box as some of these other geezers. Yeah, I think he's probably a bit more dangerous.
Not Gerber baby like.
But he looks soft. I mean, look at him, that smile and everything, mate. He's a bit. He's like, my older brother would kick your ass type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my dad could beat up your dad. All right, next category here is leaning towards the they would kick my ass. We've got Ronald McDonald, the Kool-Aid guy, Cap'n Crunch, and Burger King. Thoughts?
Ronald McDonald, get him out of there. I mean,
get him out of there. Where does he belong?
With the Keebler elf.
I think so too. He's just a charitable clown.
Yeah,
that's what he is. That's all he is.
Yeah, like you'd come up to him and like he'd try to scare you or try something, and you'd get into it, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's just a prank, bro." You know,
just
like
kidding,
all those
yeah.
fucking
And then he'd like honk
videos.
your nose, yeah. and then he'd sick the Hamburglar on you instead. You know, like that guy's a badass. Ronald, not so much.
No,
agreed.
I think the Kool-Aid guy is.
He's huge. He's huge.
Yeah. Except he is glass, so like.
But I mean, how strong is he's breaking through brick walls with that glass?
That's true.
Oh my God.
That's
you know what I'm saying? So
he might belong a little further on. Could absolutely kick your ass.
I agree. I think he's closer to the other side of the spectrum.
Yes. And then Burger King, I think he could kick your ass.
Yeah, I agree. He's big. He's big dude. He's a king.
What about Cap'n Crunch?
Again, he's a man of the sea. He's weathered. You know, he's got some miles under his belt.
You know who should be on this? The Gorton's Fisherman. He would talk about an old guy who would absolutely slap you up. The Gorton's Fisherman would be
100%
really good. Okay, then we have one in the middle of these two, which is the Trix Rabbit, and I think that's the bear from like Honeycombs or
no, it's Chester Cheeto.
No. There's the one in
Isn't
the
that
middle.
the Frosty
Oh,
Flakes
that is
Tony Tiger guy?
No. I see what you're saying. Right beside Ronald.
Ronald. He's
That
the,
is
I think
that
he's
is
like
the
honeycombs
sugar. That's
or
the Sugar Crisp guy.
Sugar Crisp.
Can't get enough of that Sugar
Or honey,
Crisp.
yes, Honey Crisp or Sugar Crisp
Yeah.
or whatever it is. I think both of these guys are ranked way too
Yeah,
high.
what are they doing on there?
I don't know. They shouldn't. Well, Tricks Rabbit. I mean, tricks are for kids.
First
So
of
is
all,
your
I could beat up a
fighting
rabbit in real life right away.
Yeah, right.
I have. I'm on the record.
Microwave, mate.
We
That's
keep
very
their
easy.
goddamn feet on our keychain.
Exactly. For fun.
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah.
No, this Tricks Rabbit. All right, so they don't belong there. I don't
Agreed.
think. I think they belong on the other side. Then there's 3 left here, and
The final boss.
the final bosses are the Green Giant, Tony the Tiger, and Chester Cheeto, who is, what is he?
Chester
leper?
Cheeto looks like he's got like a STD of some sort. You know what I mean? Like
Chester
that's how he. That's his.
Cheeto- Yeah, but
I
Chester
thought he's a
Cheeto lives
cheetah,
on the
isn't he?
street.
Cheeto's
Yeah, he's a
cheetah,
cheetah.
isn't that
Yes,
the-
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
Thank God, I
He-
would have been embarrassing if I got that.
No, you're right. I'm an idiot. So
What did you call him?
He said a leopard.
I said a
That's
leopard.
Leopard. Yeah, Chester the leopard. That makes sense.
Chester the
It's terrific.
Jesus. All right, Chester Cheeto. I
Oh,
think
man.
he would kick my ass because, like,
And Tony the
Chester-
Lion's coming up next. They're
Well, I was
pretty
late
good.
for that one, but-
they're okay. Oh my god. So, all right, Chester Cheeto could kick my ass because I think he probably belongs to a gang.
Yeah, no, he's definitely gang affiliated.
You know he's got like definitely on drugs of some sort. Like
He's got a fixer. He's got a
Yo-
fixer of some sort.
yeah.
He's like psycho. Like you can see, I mean, just by looking at him, that he's probably got a shiv in his pocket.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah, you'll never
snorting.
catch him
He's snorting
lacking that,
Cheeto
like-
dust too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. He is definitely snorting Cheeto Duffs. And then Green Giant, I would say yes because he's a
No,
giant.
Yeah,
no, you're wrong. You know what? You just come up to him with a fucking copyright infringement notice from Marvel, and the guy just fucking
Disintegrates. Ho ho ho! Get my lawyer.
That's an amazing attack. Copyright infringement. Go.
Wow. Or should I say Bruce Banner?
oh dear, yeah.
Oh my god! And then I think Tony the Tiger. He's at the end of the day, he
Are
might
we
be
sure-
a friendly tiger, but he's still a tiger.
Yeah, no, that's a man eater. That will fuck your shit up.
Agreed.
So
no
I
questions.
think overall, a pretty decent list, but there's definitely some issues with it.
Yeah, not a perfect list, but a list nonetheless.
Yes. So give us your. We're gonna post this. Obviously, I guess we just did to our Twitter feed. Post your takes on who you could beat up or who could beat up you, and who you think could beat up Chamber, because I think he would lose to most
Most
people.
people,
in this
yes, correct.
list. Maybe even
Most
the Gerber
CTA.
baby.
If that Gerber baby's Bar Harley Jarvis, I'm definitely losing.
Oh my god! All right, well, see, Cred, I told you we would get to some nonsense there.
No, of course, good.
That's the stuff we're good at. But anyway, before we get out of here, one, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you for
especially
having
at a late hour over there where you are. And then two, we want to give you the floor to kind of tell everybody where they can find you and, social media, Telegram, your YouTube, anything like that. Where do you want to direct people?
Sure. Well, yeah, as I said, thank you for having me. I mean, as you could tell by the end, I had a great fucking time, lads. Thank you.
Fantastic.
And hopefully some of the trading-related stuff people would care about, it was interesting enough and not terribly repetitive.
Our audience probably cares more about the who we can beat in a fight.
Good,
but-
because I enjoyed that section as well. And hopefully Green Giant, or whatever his fucking name is, knows not to step in my end.
Cease
That's
and
right.
desist, bitch.
Finish him.
Yeah. In terms of finding me, just Twitter, probably the easiest. Crypto Cred. It's spelt how it sounds, and then I think everything you need will be there. There's, YouTube, Medium, all that other stuff follows as well. But really, my pinned tweet has got references to all of my work. So just click on that, and if trading is your thing, have a go. There might be something valuable there for you.
Yeah, I would say anybody who hasn't. The other thing that's I think is awesome is your Telegram, which is kind of like your, I don't know, I would say your like live updates of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I've been quite bad with it recently, but generally I use it for more. I don't like to spam Twitter with shit, so shorter term thoughts and pontification finds its home in my Telegram channel. So that's Crypto Cred TA, t.me/Crypto Cred TA is the Telegram channel. I do live streams there, usually every week, that I become very annoying and don't make them replayable because I just cuss and say inappropriate shit. But if you like the short-term stuff, and again, there's a link there in my Twitter profile as well. If you like that sort of stuff and want to catch some live streams, that's the place for you. But really, Twitter and that, you're covered.
Cool. Well, again, thank you so much. That was a good time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vince.
And anything else, Chamber, before we go? Because I can hear you slurping your Kool-Aid in the background, getting ready for your fight with the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Just intimidation to the Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah.
Drink your milkshake.
All done from me. No, Cred, we appreciate it. That was a blast. I figured we would have some fun. I was not disappointed. So thanks. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
Awesome.
guys.
Well, until next time, don't get wrecked, and that is financial advice.